Hi, Room 5. This is so for social studies. I'm going to be reading section 2 of the chapter we're working on. A new nation in the Middle East brings war. More than 2,000 years ago, Palestine was home of the Jewish people, but because of wars and troubles, many Jews moved to countries in Europe. However, in these places, some people persecuted them. That is, people were mean and unfair to the Jews. For centuries they dreamed of a Jewish homeland. There they would be safe. They could follow their own traditions. What homeland did the Jewish people choose? In the 19th century, Jewish leaders began to discuss the idea of creating a Jewish nation in Palestine. By 1900, the Jews were moving into dry desert land of Palestine. However, for many generations, Palestine had been the home of Palestinian Arabs. So how did World War II affect the Jewish people? When World War I ended, Britain gained control of Palestine. In 1930s, many Jews moved there to escape the Nazis in Germany. As you know, during World War II, the Nazis murdered over 6 million Jews. After the war, Jewish people wanted a homeland more than ever. They believed that only there they would be safe. How did Israel become a nation? After World War II, thousands of Jews left Europe to create their own nation in Palestine. The British could not stop them from settling there. Finally, Britain decided to leave Palestine. The United Nations was left to control it. By 1947, the United Nations voted to divide Palestine into Jewish and Arab states. In May 1948, Jewish leader David Ben-Gurion said that the new nation of Israel existed. The neighboring Arab nation opposed the creation of a Jewish nation. Move myself over a little bit. There we go. There we go. What was the outcome of the 1948 Arab-Israel War? These Arab nations, Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, attacked Israel. Nearly 400,000 Arabs in Palestine fled the area because of the fighting. These Palestinian refugees settled in Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria. The Israeli army quickly defeated the invading Arab armies. As a result, Israel gained most of the land in Palestine. Egypt and Jordan took the remaining land. So, in the next 30 years, Israel fought 4 more wars against Arab nations that surrounded it. Each time, Israel defeated their armies. However, the defeated Arab nations still refused to admit that Israel was a nation. Arab leaders even refused to meet with Israel officials to discuss peace. What did the PLO want? These wars displaced many Palestinian Arabs. They ended up in refuge camps. They had no land that was theirs to live on. These displaced peoples demanded that they be given their own nation within Palestine. We'll start right there. Okay, some Palestinian Arabs formed the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or the PLO. Arab By 1970, members of the PLO had become terrorists. They used violence to frighten Israeli citizens and to force them to leave Palestine. The PLO staged raids on Israel from neighboring Arab nations, such as Lebanon. In the early 1980s, Israel invaded Lebanon to get rid of the PLO. When did children get involved in the fight? In 1987, violence spread to areas that lay south of Lebanon, called the West Bank and the Golan Heights. Young Palestinian children and women put up barriers in the streets. Then they threw rocks at Israeli soldiers. They killed a few soldiers and injured others. But the soldiers also killed and injured some Arab women and children. After this, Israeli soldiers arrested hundreds of Palestinians. Israel believed that controlling the West Bank was necessary for its security. In fact, hundreds of Israeli families had already built homes in the West Bank. How did Israel's and Palestinians work together? During the 1990s, the Palestinian Arabs began to work with the Israelis to obtain Palestinian self-rule. In 1994, the Israelis allowed the Palestinians to take control of much of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. A few 100,000 Jewish settlers and more than 2 million Palestinians lived on the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. In 1995, Palestinian self-rule was expanded to more towns in the West Bank, but many Israelis living in these towns protested. Then, in 1995, an Israeli citizen assassinated Yassin Rabin, the Prime Minister of Israel. He had opposed the government's peace policy. Why do the Israelis not want to give up the land? In 1998, Israel celebrated because it had been a nation for 50 years. The Israelis had fought again and again to keep their homeland. However, the Palestinians did not celebrate. Instead, the Palestinians called once again for the creation of their own nation. They began to argue and fight with the Israelis over the land. The Palestinians wanted Israel to give up the land in return for peace. The government of Israel thinks that giving up land will weaken its security. World leaders want Israelis and Palestinians to negotiate again and create peace in the Middle East. Both sides now search for the right solution. Alright, so that was section 2. So this week, listen to this video and work on your study guide for this section. Next week, I'm going to read section 3, India Gains Independence. And then we can move on to section 3. I miss you guys. Have a great week.